Festival. So, yep, I'm here with you just to share a little bit about artificial intelligence, specifically in risk management, compliance, and regulatory framework. First of all, I think first and utmost, let me just introduce where I was from. I was from Ngee Ann Polytechnic. This is a IHL, or Institution of Higher Learning, that started in 1963. We have more than 10 schools, of which I came from the School of Business and Accountancy. Aside from training our what we call the full-time students, we also have an academy, which is known as a CET, Continuous Education Training Academy. This is for the learning adults. And just a very quick introduction of myself. Okay, I'm not used to it actually. Yeah, this is a very quick introduction of myself. I'm Kok Wai Man. I'm lecturing in the School of Business and Accountancy, specifically in the Diploma of Banking and Finance. Now, the modules I'm taking, it's financial risk and compliance. So today, just let me walk through with you the artificial intelligence, especially in terms of the risk management and also the compliance. And as you can see, how it flows in the regulatory framework that we see around the world. So today, we're starting to see more and more applications on AI. Nothing new in that. You can see that even for FinTech Festival, we have a lot of discussion on AI and how AI is going to power the world forward. But having said that, there will be risks. There should be some compliance as well. And how does the government come together, the regulators come together, impose certain rules and regulations to make this world a better place despite having this AI powering the world? So first of all, I'm just going to talk a little bit about AI and what AI can do. Because AI, while it's a new term, I can tell you that the rate of change of AI is really growing exponentially. I recall some years back, we started to talk about the different types of AI. All right, very specific to a very, very small subset. But now we are talking about Gen AI. ChatGPT come into the world, and it's really grown from what we don't expect to nowadays. I think it is quite common for us to use Gen AI to do a lot of things. I won't be surprised that after Gen AI, there will be something else where AI can really behave like human beings. I don't know how many of you have tried ChatGPT, write a proposal within 30 seconds. All you need to do is just to key in some information, just prompt the system what you want, and then suddenly what you get is that you have a lot of information, and I can tell you it really mimics how we write. As the more you train the large language model which powers the ChatGPT or its related Gen AI, the better it will become. So I want to really, really get all of us to see that actually AI, it's a multi-purpose tool. Treat AI as a multi-purpose tool. Now, if you don't recall anything that I say at the end of the day, just remember this. We should not be afraid of AI, specifically Gen AI. What we should be afraid is losing our jobs to someone else who knows how to use AI. So I hope that I could encourage all of you to come through this journey with me to be willing to really willing to adapt this to AI. Okay? So first of all, I just want to really give you a very quick classification what AI is all about. I think over here you can see that this is the major category of AI where we can actually break them down. From machine learning to deep learning to Gen AI. So Gen AI, what we call generative AI, is that they are able to generate contents. What we used to see is that for AI, they are very good at making certain decisions. For example, I want to do some regression analysis. What can I do? I just have some data, A/B testing, and I just put it through. Then the system will tell me whether, at the end of the day, it's falling to decision A or decision B. I'll give you a good example. For example, maybe I represent a bank. I want to decide whether I want to lend money, I want to dispense credit to this company. Let's suppose it's SME. So what happened was that I only have very specific fields like the bank account, the credit history, the number of employees, yada, 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 depending on which variable that you want. At the end of the day, what you did to do is once you fix all this variable, you punch into the system, and the system will tell you whether, at the end of the day, using some statistics, all right, you can call it logistic probability, it will either suggest whether you lend or you don't lend. But that itself is actually machine learning. If you go deeper, it's deep learning. But today, the hardware and the software, it's able to power generative AI, which means that you can try to use Gen AI to try to really find a connection between the different variables, which seemingly we don't expect. I think recently I read in some articles that using Gen AI to basically find the linkage between two different types of cells that can be related to some cancer treatment. It's quite interesting that the use of Gen AI can really power a lot of things. But of course, today we are in Singapore FinTech Festival. We'll try to focus on finance application. Another thing about AI, I just want to share it with you. This is what we call discriminative AI, which is very specific. It can be used to train very specific tasks. And I can say that even for this, although today all of us are really going gaga over Gen AI, right, because of its ability to create new content. But I can tell you, it's still relatively, the potential, it's still really relatively untapped. All right, it's really untapped. So really depends on what you need. This definitely, it's a lot more expensive because LLM to train LLM is really expensive. So sometimes from the cost perspective, companies may decide to use this discriminative AI. Okay, although I use the word discriminative AI, I choose to use this word because I have some reservation using the word traditional. Because AI, right, looks to me, unless you're looking at this Turing's, the Turing computing, otherwise discriminative, this traditional AI that we're talking about is barely a few years. This is only one year plus. All right, you can see that actually the rate of change is really, really unimaginable. So what really powers AI? All right, what really powers AI is actually these four factors that really power AI. No doubt, computing power. All right, so today you can see that the spending on technology really grows by a lot. All right, it's really exponential growth. A lot of it is possible because of the data storage. What used to be so expensive to store data, today it becomes a lot cheaper. All right, you can even think about using cloud compared to your hardware. Remember those days? I think that's if you can walk into some IBM, I call them cold room lah. Basically, it's one stack of those data frame. But today you can do it using cloud, which means that if storing in Singapore is expensive, do it somewhere else. Which means that you can find the most cost-efficient place to do it. The technology has allowed these things to happen, computing power. And of course, AI can't be powered without data. So, right, this is for my students. If you really want to push yourself in the field of AI, may I suggest that you pay a lot of attention to this subject called statistics. I know it's scary. My students used to call statistics sadistic. I don't know why. All right, but please don't think that statistics is sadistic. Statistics is really there to give us the framework to really decide how to make decisions. Remember, just now I mentioned about regression analysis. All right, regression analysis, whether you land or you don't land. Actually, that itself is what we call a logistic regression. Logistic regression simply means that the probability, what's the odds of certain outcome you want. Let's say if I land, what is the outcome that this loan will not be repaid? So again, that's a decision making. What we're just saying that AI makes that decision a lot more smarter, a lot more accurate, and you can factor in a lot more data points, which previously you can't, which helps you to make better decisions. All right, so this is where we're looking at data, big data and analytics. Actually, I find that this word big data is a bit old already. It's just that I just want to keep the word data, actually. If I could, right, can somebody, Gideon, if you can, please help me to remove the word big. Because, nobody bothers about small data. Okay, anyway, data is crucial. And, of course, to my students, statistics. Algorithms, not to mention, algorithms is crucial. All right, it's basically the mathematical instructions and computation procedures. Now, these days, we always try to make that data or AI being very sexy, very easy to understand. But actually, if you look back at the base, at the foundation, it's a lot about mathematics, it's a lot about statistics, it's a lot about computing. So do make sure that, for my students, if you want to really push the boundaries of AI, do make sure that you know algorithm as well. And of course, the other thing is that learning from use cases from other industries, all right? Although we are over here in Singapore FinTech Festival talking about financial applications of AI, but please do open up ourselves to look at how AI is being deployed and being used in other areas. Specifically, I like to suggest looking at how it's being used in the medical field. Because at the end of the day, a lot of decision makings, it's about connections, correlations, about associations between the different variables. And I could say that actually for medical field, that's exactly the same thing as well. Are we able to find that cell A and some mitochondria having some relationship that helps us to better predict whether someone has certain disease like Alzheimer's? We don't know. But AI is able to help us because we have all these things. All we need is just some use case to help us to really power our imagination. So therefore, my friends, the biggest concern about AI, for me, the biggest constraint, it's your imagination. So learn how to imagine, look at use cases, and really stand on the shoulders of the giant to really push forward. But of course, it means that as we push forward, we are moving into unknown boundaries. And that brings us risk. And with risk, I think it is important that some of us may need to make some adjustments. Some of us may even need to think about how do we so-called do this risk management. Is there any regulations that we need to comply in order to make the world a safer place? Now, I just want to give you an example. Now, imagine we have a car powered completely by AI. Very, very interesting. Captures everybody's imagination. The only thing is that when they see someone walking on the road, they charge towards that person. AI can drive ma? Yes. Someone charge accurately. All right, really hit at 90 kilometers per hour. Can that happen? Whose fault is this? Driver? Car manufacturer? Or the person who happens to be there? All right, it can't be that case. So there must be some regulatory framework that helps to protect us. So that's where I'm trying to come from today. I'm not so, I'm sure there'll be a lot of my fellow speakers talking about the various types of AI, the applications of AI, which I will share a little bit because all the risk, the compliance or the regulatory framework falls on the use case. And in fact, I want to also share that one of the laws that didn't make it into the legislation, it passed through the legislator, but at the end of the day, it was being vetoed simply because it was not looking at the application. So that's why I think use case is very important. And specifically for finance, I really encourage people to really look at the use case in medical field. Okay, let me just quickly move on. Okay, so first of all, this is just to really try to convince you that, yes, this is the direction going forward. Why? Because many companies are really spending a lot of money on computing powers, and using AI to power their businesses. You hear it every day. I think you just walk down the booth. OCBC will tell you how they use Copilot. UOB will tell you the same thing as well. All right, and not to mention that some of the biggest fintech companies in the world, that they're using AI to support their operations. Why is that so? Because they believe, and I see it, if you don't just use ChatGPT, it really helps you to ideate a lot faster than before, which I think is good. But the question is that what are the risks that comes along? Which is what I will try to mention about that later. But just to put it in the setting, the global spending, IT spending is projected to grow. But if you look at the growth, right, it's really powered by AI, and specifically Gen AI. Of course, these are some of the consulting companies that comes out of this data. Although you can cast doubts on this data, definitely, but I can tell you in the general direction, they are really, it's really happening. This is really what we see. Today, you just walk into, let's say, my school, Ngee Polytechnic. You just ask around every single student. Yes, they will tell you that they know how to use Gen AI to help them write essay. The only question is that after having the first cut from a Gen AI, which helps them to articulate their ideas, to ideate the thought process, how do they, number one, rephrase it? Or rather, don't use the word rephrase, use the word paraphrase it. Number two, with that generation, with that ideas, right, how are they going to put more things together and therefore have their own conclusion? Okay, so this is what Gen AI is doing for everyone. Actually, it's pretty funny because last year I was also here giving a talk about AI as well, AI and data. I remember close to 75% of my talk was on all the discriminative AI that I talk about, which is all the machine learning, all the deep learning, all the unstructured learning and structured learning. But 1 year later, I realized that, hey, I'm spending a lot more time talking about Gen AI. This really shows how fast the world is growing. And I can also tell you, as I move along, you realize that I'm not only going to talk about Gen AI, but I'm going to talk about AI agent, Gen AI agent to be more exact. The reason is because Gen AI is still passive. Whatever information you want, they give you. But Gen AI agent, okay, remember the word agent, it helps you to make that decision. Of course, making that decision, which means you pass a decision to someone else, that forms some danger. All right, the example I gave you is that car, moving at 90 kilometers per hour, but only know how to move towards individuals or people. Okay, so yeah, I just want to quickly show you how banks are even doing it now. Gideon, are you able to just play this? Well, just give me a moment. Gideon. Now, while we're waiting for the for this video to be played, I just want you to pick up some of the keywords over here, and that probably tells you.
OCBC is the longest established bank in Singapore. We have a very large regional footprint with businesses in Singapore, Malaysia, China, Hong Kong, and Indonesia. In the early days, data was all about sales and marketing, using it for cross-selling. Today, data is used across all aspects of OCBC, whether that's sales, service, risk, and financial crime.
Here at OCBC, we adopt a more innovative and explorative mindset. Back in March, when we were cognizant about ChatGPT, as the industry was, of its generative AI capabilities, we wanted to bring ChatGPT into the bank in a secure manner to explore its potential capabilities and harness use cases for our employees to use. It just seems natural to house it within Microsoft Azure, since Microsoft Teams is an enterprise-wide platform and is used heavily across the organization. Most importantly, it is a secure private cloud that no one else has access to.
I was nominated as the pilot user for the tool. I started using it since early May this year, and I've been using it to draft emails and also my chatbot FAQ. And with this, this allows me to manage more interactions and making sure that there's consistency in our responses. It allows us to focus more on other interactions and maybe more on the complexity of other cases or even the creative aspects of our job.
Increasingly, we're going to continue to roll out AI across our core processes. We're using AI really to generate revenues and improve the customer experience. We're using it to make OCBC more efficient and to reduce costs, and also to lower risk in OCBC, protecting the bank and protecting our customers.
Okay, thank you. A few things I would like to say. Number one, I'm not a shareholder of OCBC. Number two, I'm not an employee of OCBC. And number three, I think what you hear from here is that Gen AI or AI itself can be powered across front office, middle office, and back office now. What's front office? Generally, the department that interacts with the customer or interface with the market. What is middle office? The control functions. Back office, the operations. If you hear what they are saying just now, basically it comes to fighting financial crimes, cross-selling to the customers, generating revenues, even doing chatbots, which could be an internal one within the OCBC, or actually for its customer as well. So basically, at the end of the day, what we're saying is that AI can be powered across front, middle, back office, across almost every single division or departments or functions of a bank. So what does that mean? So it means that the productivity gains can be enormous. But of course, we all know what AI can do. Making wrong decisions. Of course, there's this hallucination. I don't know whether you remember some court cases where some lawyers, paralegals, they use Gen AI, and what they do is that they manage to come up with some court cases. We call it precedents. And they used to submit it in the court, and only to realize that it's the hallucination of the ChatGPT. All right, of course, to be fair, I think if we train ChatGPT well enough, this thing can go off. And I think in the process, ChatGPT, it's really becoming better and better than before. But having said that, I think as users, we should be well aware that this thing can happen, especially in areas where, or areas where there is insufficient training on this, insufficient training when it comes to the LLM, or large language model. Okay, so basically, after we look at the example from OCBC, right, we want to ask ourselves, is really Gen AI a disruptive force in the banking and financial services sector? I think just now in the very short 2 minutes video, sorry, I didn't mention to you 2 minutes video, that yeah, it seems that it's able to power across the various pillars of the office. Some of the keywords I would like to mention is actually personalization. I think today you know that in terms of personal financial services, you have, rather in the consumer banking, you have this thing called private banking, serve the richest group of people. You have some affluent banking. All right, that's if you think about it, right, it's something like Citibank. You have a Citibank private banking, and you have Citigold. All right, that's the second group. And you have mass retail. Well, if there is insufficient data point, then the segmentation can be so, what we call, just probably that few categories only. Perhaps for some customers, it is good enough, but for some, maybe it isn't really that customized. Now, what happens is that Gen AI allows the customization almost to the individual. By looking at your income statement, by looking at your assets, your net worth, or perhaps even your habits. When I say habits, is like how much time you spend on internet, how much money what's your phone bill, your utilities bill. Perhaps that itself, they are able to come up with better financial services for you. All right, don't be surprised because that is actually one of the alternative data that is used to predict probability of default to some good extent in places like I think South Asia. Okay, so another thing is that despite all the productivity gains, there's actually this big concern. For example, biasness. For example, misinformation and cybersecurity threats. Because you can see the use of AI means you have to store data somewhere, and when you store data, probably store it on cloud. If you store it on cloud, yes, you can ask some of the companies, those companies will tell you that, okay, those service providers, I wouldn't name them, that cloud is secure. All right, if I'm those companies, I'll probably say the same thing, but we all know there's a chance that it is not that secure after all. All right, so all these threats are real. Okay, so that's the reason why it is important to know that despite all the productivity gain, it is possible that there will be a lot of risk that comes through. Now, just now I mentioned about difference between Gen AI and Gen AI agent. And Gen AI agent, it's going to be at least going to be the one that powers the financial services ahead. Now, let me just give you a quick let's just call it primer. What's the difference between Gen AI and Gen AI agent? Now, let's suppose I want to know what should I eat after this talk. All right, so what do? I go to ChatGPT. I key in, what should I eat at 1:45 p.m. after my SFF talk? And of course, I'm sure ChatGPT will have a lot of suggestions, especially if I tell ChatGPT, can you write a sort of an essay, a 500-word essay, and tell me what's the food that I should be eating. Now, it will be passive, telling me exactly what I want. But if I want to make a decision, I don't want to make a decision myself. I want Gen AI to make a decision for me. Then I'll just tell Gen AI that, hey, I just came back from KL actually. I just came back from KL. I'd like to eat something different after my talk after my talk at SFF. Can you have a suggestion? Yeah, maybe the Gen AI agent will provide some suggestion. What's the difference? Gen AI itself, let's say ChatGPT, it's passive. Based on your prompt, they give you what you want. That's it, but you still make the call. All right, but when it comes to Gen AI agent, it goes one step beyond. It is a lot more, you see the word proactive, it plans ahead, and it interacts with whatever information. So therefore, there is a lot of discussion, or rather there's a lot of thoughts that it is actually not Gen AI that's going to power the productivity gains of financial services, but it's actually the Gen AI agent. Now, let me just give you an example. We all know that this thing called straight-through processing for operations, straight-through processing. What does it mean? Let's suppose a trader books a trade. And when a trader books a trade, generally the next step, okay, let's just move out all the controls. The next step will be doing operations where they will make some settlements payment. At the end of the day, there will be someone checking. Let's imagine you have straight-through processing. It's done completely using system. And that's where, including the payout, including the disbursement, then having a Gen AI agent, it's probably going to help you do that. Because otherwise, you just get the information and still need someone that's going to press, yes, I'm going to send this money to my counterparty, or no, I'm going to keep the money. I'm not going to pay my counterparty. But if you are willing to use a Gen AI agent to do that, the Gen AI agent is able to really dispense. Of course, the question that you may be asking is this: do you absolutely place your faith on the Gen AI agent? Because we know that the moment the money is paid out, it's like, you pour water out already. Very hard to take back. So that's the question. Do you have that risk appetite? If you don't, yes, human beings are required. Yeah, human beings are required. Whenever I think about this, right, I feel a lot happier because I'm required. Okay. So therefore, what we're saying is that the one that really powers the next frontier, it's not really a passive Gen AI now, but it's really the proactive features of this Gen AI agent. All right, so there's just some examples, the use of Gen AI. I'm not going to run through every single one. All right, the ICBC, Ant Group, I mean, we all know that China houses a few fintech superpowers, and they are really looking at that. I think you should also aware that China has this thing called social scoring, right? Honestly, social scoring can't be successful without the use of AI. Not to mention some of the big financial conglomerates like Morgan Stanley is also using this ChatGPT as an encyclopedia for financial advisors. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure that financial advisors would really want to, in this course of the work, needs a lot of information. Google is not good enough. Just ask ChatGPT, can I know everything about this company or about this country? If I want to invest in this country, tell me about the biggest risks of this country. And what you have is that you have a whole long list of work, whole long list. All right. So Google and cloud. Okay, let's move on. All right. Yeah, the use of AI and Gen AI to spot fraudulent activity. This is increasing. I would say that this is increasing mainstream now. As far as I'm aware, that some of the banks here are really moving into the use of Gen AI to help them to detect fraudulent activities. And that helps them to decide, whether to file a suspicious transaction report. Okay. So in terms of the application of AI in the financial institutions, right, a few things has come out. I think you've seen some of these things just now in the OCBC video. The first is actually the use of chatbot. And I say the chatbot it could be an internal one. For example, I want to know how many days of leave can I clear. I can call my friends in HR, all right, but I can use a chatbot as well. What if it's interaction with the customers? I think these days you can see, right, I don't know, I'm sure you may have experienced it before when I have received a credit card bill from DBS and, I saw something I don't like. You know what's the thing I don't like whenever I receive a credit card bill or not? Annual fee. All right, annual fee. I thought they earn through another means. Why want to charge me annual fee? Where's DBS? Okay, anyway, yeah, annual fee. And on top of that, after the annual fee, they still make me pay tax. Yeah, so pay tax on the annual fee. So what do? I want to call. Last time I will just pick up the phone, call DBS, and guess what? They'll tell me that you are very important. Please wait. And then it's like, can I don't wait? Cannot. Just please wait. But today what you can do, they know the chatbot. Yeah, I guess the chatbot, you just enter this thing, waive annual fee, and then they'll just key in some of your information, and then it's almost instantaneous. They'll tell you it's done. We'll waive it for you. And that shows I spent some money on my credit card. Otherwise, they'll just say that, yeah, you just faithfully pay, okay? And come back and ask next year. Okay, so this is the use of chatbots. It really helps to power the productivity gains in many of the banks. And the example I gave is DBS. Right, the other one is actually the customization. Customization. It is possible that Gen AI can use to provide insights into customer behavior. All right, one of the biggest challenge these days when it comes to consumer banking is the changing behavior of our next generation. All right, just to give you an example, okay, seemingly unrelated. All right, and let's see whether you think like AI or not. Okay, when I say AI is artificial intelligence, okay, that is, I compare myself and ask my daughter, I have some favorite songs in the 90s. I hope I never compromise my age. Vintage already, actually, me. All right, 90s. And my daughter likes to listen to songs that are today's songs are. And on average, her comment is that the songs are a lot faster today, all right? Now, what does that mean in terms of customization? What does that mean in terms of personalization into our customer behavior? Probably it also shows that the next generation is a lot more impatient than me. Asking me to waive annual fees is actually, I can't take it, but I can just bear with it for a short while. You ask the next generation to do it, they'll say that I'll bring my money elsewhere. All right, so that means that having this AI that helps us to personalize is important. And also, it also means that, well, how are we going to personalize in such a way that is cost effective? AI is a solution. All right, as I said previously, there's only 3 tiers of consumer banking, right? Private, affluent, and the rest. Today, you can have a lot more segments simply because AI allows us to do this. Okay, I think this one, probably you can imagine yourself already. All right, of course, the other one will be the use of underbanked and non-bank segments. In Singapore, we seldom see this because research has shown that close to 97% of Singaporeans do have access to bank accounts, do have access to a bank, all right? But if you walk out of Singapore's border into many of the developing world, perhaps that number drops drastically. Providing banking services to these people may not be cost effective for a lot of banks. So what do? The banks simply don't provide the financial services. But that is also presenting some problem. Number one, it means that there is a huge unbanked population outside in the country, and that is perhaps what we call the fertile ground for financial crimes like money laundering. Why? Because we use cash. There's no excess. And you know that, for example, if you use cash, there's no what we call the footprint to know where the money comes from. Have you asked this question yourself? If somebody comes in and want to buy a house and all they bring is a suitcase of cash, or what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Is this cash legit? Right? So therefore, what we're saying is this: it is important to make sure that we want to reduce the proportion of people that's unbanked or underbanked. But the reality is that creating accounts for every single individual is expensive. All right, so we used to have this thing. It's expensive for us, but in Singapore, what do? I don't know how many of you does remember, okay, probably not my students. We can use to open a bank account with $1 in POSB or OCBC. Why is that so? Because the banking sector was really protected that time. But since we have opened up, it means that it is not possible to start a bank account with just $1 and still maintain everything. It's not possible for the bank to do so. So what else can we do? All right, since it's not possible to increase the top line, the revenue, then the other thing is let's reduce the cost. And AI provides the possibility. Okay, of course in Singapore, as I said, 97% of Singapore's population has access to this, but I'll say that once we move out of Singapore, this becomes real. Microfinancing, I think you may have heard of this term microfinancing. But microfinancing, the charge is actually very high as well. It's really like loan shark. Okay, I don't hide my word. It's really very expensive. It's worse than credit card, actually. Okay, and of course, the other thing is that AI can also help to contribute to fighting financial crime. Why is that so? Because AI can recognize pattern better. Now, if you look at all our MAS notices in terms of what is the threshold for a compliance officer to start asking questions about the nature of the transaction, the number used to be higher. How do people or how do the financial criminals fight it? We bring the volume down and have multiple volumes. All right, and what is it called? It's called smurfing. Okay, by the way, if y'all don't know who is Smurf, right, you just go and Google Smurf. Right, those very cute cartoon, a very short one, it's smurfing. All right, same thing, smurfing. Yeah, smurfing takes place. What does that mean? It means that MAS, when it comes to all the regulations, they probably need to adapt to it as well. But if you need to ask for every single transaction, it gets very expensive. So what do you need to do? Perhaps you can use technology. Okay, maybe this is a bit, this is not so a second nature to everyone. I don't know how many of you got this. There's one time DBS called me on my card. Said, Mr. Kok, we have already blocked your card access. Actually, I was about to pay something, Then suddenly I asked why. say because they detected about, I think 60 or 70 transactions, $10 each. 60 and 70. I don't know who is capable of charging my card 60 to 70 times $10 each every single time. US dollars or more. Yeah, I was quite surprised. But yeah, that is possible. So, but in the old days, it is not possible for DBS to detect it. But then again, because there's this investment into all this technology, including AI, pattern recognition, real-time monitoring becomes possible. So this is where I'm also saying that the use of AI can also help to fight financial crimes. Okay, but then again, what about the risk? What happens if it's true that 60 to 70 $10 transactions is true? We really have a false positive. Okay? But then again, as I said, as I keep talking about the possibilities of AI, right, I think our theme is really about the risks, the common risks. And one of the common risks is actually hallucination. This is the example that I mentioned to you. All right, the lawyer says, I'm sorry for using fake cases. Okay. It's pretty embarrassing, honestly. All right, you go to a court case where there's no such precedents and you argue based on those non-precedents. The other one is that there's also some research that's being done, and it was being shown that, yeah, while human beings are biased, I know human beings are biased, Gen AI can be even worse. Why is that so? Because Gen AI fits on large language model, and large language model can be trained. If you use a biased intent to train it, you are likely going to get that result. All right, so what is actually the better solution? To be fair, I think things have improved a lot. The training has improved a lot. There's a lot more information, a lot more people training it. And first of all, if there is more data that's being used, it's possible to prevent hallucination. Okay, hallucination is really a very, very polite word for saying misinformation. All right. Perhaps the difference between hallucination and misinformation is about intent. There's no intent to do bad things if it's a hallucination. Okay, so how do you prevent it? Really train your LLM. Okay, LLM means large language model, using high quality and up-to-date data. So that's why we can start to see ChatGPT 3.0, 3.5, and so on and so forth. Every single version is actually about training. And of course, in order to prevent biasness, you really need to increase the sample size. You need to increase the sample size as much as possible that's close to the population. And what's the best thing? AI can do this. Okay, I think I should just skip this statistical portion. The reason why I still put it there is because I want to convince everyone that statistics, which is the not so sexy name for data analytics, it's crucial for the growth of AI if you want to really push yourself in learning AI. Okay, then of course the next question will be, what about our jobs? These days, there are a lot of concerns that jobs will be displaced because of AI. All right, I think my colleague this morning just sent me something that banks are retrenching some more people. And therefore, job displacement, it's real. But my question is it really due to AI? Or can someone use AI to help you to bulletproof your employment? Now, of course, if you forget everything that I say, as I put it earlier, one thing you must remember, do not be afraid of AI. You should be afraid of someone who knows how to use AI better than you. All right, so what's our mantra? Our mantra is that please be the one who knows how to use AI relatively well. Okay, so let us just really break down this. This is what we call an on-job training plan. Basically, it means I have a job. Basically, what's a job? It's a collection of tasks. It's a collection of main tasks that I need to do. For example, let's say I am let's do this. Okay, let's say I am a compliance officer. What is my main job? My main job is really to prevent money laundering. So whenever there's a customer on board, what do I need to do? I check the customer. How do I check the customer? I ask the customer for information. I go and do some Google search. And if this customer is someone who is publicly known, it's easier for me. But what about someone who doesn't have any such information? Perhaps I will Google to see whether this person appears in news somewhere or not. All right. So I'll do all those things. I collect the information. I do the Googling is the name screening over here. And therefore, the next step is I document everything. So that's actually the natural work that I've been doing. I take the information from him. I go and do my own research. and I put up the document together. This is one of the, you can call it a sequence of a sequence of tasks to support this main group, which is called conduct background check. Now the question is, we all know that this portion, checking the names, trying to find out online whether does this person a financial criminal, is this actually very, very difficult? The answer is yes, it could be very, very manual, and it may take a lot of time. So let's suppose that, hey, what about one day that this is replaced by AI? If this is replaced by AI, then I can say that this depends on how fast your client give you the information. For this portion, all right, it's really how fast you work to put the documents together. This is the one that takes up a lot of time, where you need to search for a lot of various sources, all right? For example, from Refinity to you Google search and this database, or maybe you will need to go and look at what the United Nations list as well of those sanctioned personnel. You don't have to do that anymore. Just use AI to search for everything at one go. That itself is going to cut the time to almost quite a minimal and really hasten the process. So what I'm just saying is that folks, especially for my students, don't be worried about AI. Learn how to use AI to support this portion so that you can be a lot more productive. Because at the end of the day, someone still needs to make a decision. Can we trust AI agent to make the decision? I think at the moment we are not there yet. So we still have we have still some good years to keep that portion. So yeah, this is really the message I want to say. The real fear isn't that AI will replace us, but it's that we will lose our jobs to those people who doesn't know how to leverage on AI. I mean, that's the message I want to share. Okay, then the rest I'll just move very quickly forward on. There are other concerns about AI as well. For example, we always say that we use ChatGPT to help us write essays, right? But do you know what is the biggest problem or not? I use ChatGPT for so long, perhaps I don't know how to spell anymore. I don't know how to write proper English anymore. All right, this is true, trust me. You know, evolution, right? Evolution, do you all know that actually dolphin and hippo belongs to the same group of animal last time? Then one's trapped in a sea, the other one trapped in a river, right? Look at the way they behave. One looks so cute, the other looks so big size, right? Okay, that's one evolution. I mean, this thing can happen actually. The bottom line is that it can lead us to a loss of creativity and critical thinking skills, which actually put us at higher risk. So with all this risk coming, there are some companies can do something itself to prevent all this risk by having certain bylaws. And this bylaws is what I call the compliance. All right. And some of the compliance could be also driven by laws. So for example, we all know that data privacy is a concern. And not only Singapore is PDPA, by the way, GDPR is regulations from Europe. European-based regulations are usually more onerous. Trust me, this one is very short. This one you can read it within one day. This one I haven't finished reading it. I started reading this 3 years ago. Okay, but yeah, that's okay. Partly I'm busy. Okay, then the other one is the ethical use of AI. So we all start to question, because AI doesn't have ethical views. All right, AI doesn't have this thought that, oh, if I don't want people to do such things to me, right, then I better don't do it to others. AI doesn't have this sort of thing. So how do we have ethical use of AI? All right, we talk about trustworthy AI as a main term, but I just want to tell you, Singapore, there's this thing called AI Verify. We'll talk about it in a very short while. And also intellectual property rights. What's the biggest concern about ChatGPT today for a lot of the songwriters, the authors? Plagiarism. All right, it's really plagiarism. So there's a lot of things that we need to look at in terms of how do we comply by certain existing regulations, bylaws, or even practices. Okay, not to mention bias, explainability, or even regulatory oversight. This is crucial because for the rest, yes, you can get scolded, right? But yeah, this one, very crucial because if regulations are breached, especially those regulations involves legislation or notices. Now, what's the difference between legislation and notices? It means it's law that is being passed. Okay, there's law that's being passed in the parliament. Okay, we call it parliament, but there's this other places called legislature. And it could lead to really criminal, what we call criminal consequences. So therefore, it's important that there is some regulatory framework. And the car example that I used earlier today, it's one. Because we need to make sure that how do we define the responsibilities very clearly. As I said just now, if I have a car powered completely by AI, but it's good, it's sexy, it drives very quickly, it gets me from point A to point B. The only thing is that even there is someone in front of me, when the car is moving, they don't care, just bang and just move on. But I'm not driving. My hands are not on the wheel. I'm not stepping on the accelerator. Whose fault is this? Manufacturer? My fault? Or the person's fault who asked you to be there, right? That's right. It can't be that case, right? So this is where we are coming from. So just want to share very quickly. I was told I only have 5 minutes left. Just want to share very quickly how different countries really approach this. For Singapore, we have this thing called SGAI Verified Foundation. Basically, it is a framework. It is a framework that looks at what are the best practices to use AI. All right, and want to make sure that it is consistent with AI governance standards all over the world. Okay, so this is basically, this one doesn't override the regulations. It's just saying that, yeah, with this, you follow the regulations, but this is the best practices. It is actually really a collaboration between a lot of people, from the industry, from the academia, and also the regulators. So SGAI verified. Okay, I'll just quickly move on. Now, having said that, right, in terms of regulations, there is really there's really a legislation that's being put through in EU, which is called EU AI Act. Now, this one is the first act specifically on AI all over the world. And they tried to put it into 3 categories, something from unacceptable risks, high-risk applications, all right, and the rest, okay? You can think about it, very unacceptable ones. Like, so, okay, they use social scoring as an example. High-risk, CV scanning tools that rank jobs according to applicants actually basically means racial profiling. And lastly, the rest. So what does this mean? This means that for the first time, there's this legislation that really looks at how AI is being used. But I just want to focus, I just want to bring attention. This is on applications. Now, I just want to talk about a bill that was not passed. It's important because today it doesn't pass, doesn't mean that this group of people in California will not pass it again. By the way, when it comes to California, right, the election is just over. I think you all know, right? Yeah. Between the boy and the girl, the boy won. But having said that, right, California, that same governor is still the same governor, and the party that controls the California legislature still controls the legislature. There's a chance they may bring this back again. But what is the difference between this and the EU AI Act? The EU AI Act looks at the applications, whereas this doesn't. It looks at the computational power, not really the risk that comes from the application. So as a result of that, there's a lot of concerns from Silicon Valley, and the governor actually vetoed it eventually. All right, but having said that, nothing is going to stop. Nothing suggests that this may not come back again. Okay, and then maybe some legal reference as well, because at the end of the day, we talk about regulations, right? There will be always some legal concept. In US. Now, this is being struck down, but there's a chance this thing can come back again. You all know that US, things move in cycle, right? Yeah, Donald Trump win the election, lose election, win election again. So this thing comes back last time, being forced out, could come back again. So what is the issue about this? The issue about this is that, basically there is this what we call the 3 branches of government. The one that passed the law, the one that enforced the law, and the one that interprets the law. All right, so basically the parliament is the one who passed the law. The government, the executive branch, it's the one that enforces the law. And the last one is interpret the law. So what happened is that Chevron deference basically means that if the parliament doesn't pass a very clear-cut law, the government who enforces this piece of regulation has the right to interpret it. Basically, the checks and balances across the 3 branches of government all collapse into one, which is the government interpret it. AI being so new, AI being something which perhaps if you walk into a parliament and start talking about AI, right, I can tell you everybody starts sleeping. Or you go to the judges and you look at the judges and explain AI to the judges, right? Probably the judges will just be very polite and smart at you, that's it. Okay, but I think our judges are good, don't worry. Likelihood is that at the end of the day, right, it is the government with their agency that with the best expertise on this field will be the one who knows best. And therefore, it may come back to it again where the 3 branches collapse into one. Will this make a comeback? I don't know. But having said that, right, it will really have some impact on the AI world, right? Because once you have increased regulatory uncertainty, because last time, you know what, anything, just fall back on the agency. Anything we don't not sure about AI in Singapore, okay, using Singapore example, but although Singapore doesn't practice this, look at IMDA's equivalent in US. But then, these days, you look at IMDA's equivalent in US is insufficient. You got to look at the court as well. Okay, and that creates regulatory uncertainty as well. Okay? So now the next question, which I want to ask yourself and probably bring back, is that what does the future with AI hold for us? I don't know. I hope next year when I come here and walk around again, perhaps I have a clearer answer. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for your attention.